grown it from almost nothing. And I asked him, I said, what do you think the key elements are as to why that's happened? In the end, he's like, do you know what, actually, it's just because we deliver what we said we're going to deliver.
Yeah. Sorry, there's one more thing on the business side that has become huge at the moment that wasn't a problem a few years ago. So we're seeing lots of and I was watching this guy renting out jet skis, and I worked out, I reckon he was making 29 grand a week, and I was like, that's my next why would I lend my money to you and you not guarantee you're going to pay it back? You run a business but you don't have any assets. Well, you could liquidate that and go off into the sunset.
What really made you get into business?
Well, I was in photocopiers and I had...
Welcome to this week's Working On It, the podcast for service-based business founders who want to scale without burning out. Today's guest is an absolute firecracker, Gillian Palmer. Gillian is a founder of Lending Made Simple, a company that helps businesses secure funding with ease. Thank you very much for listening. Let's get into this week's episode. So Gillian, thank you very much for coming on Working On It. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, inviting me.
Yeah. So Gillian, you've built and sold businesses, launched Lending Made Simple, Finance Hub, and all whilst raising a family.
Yeah, on my own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. So now take me back to the start. What really made you get into business in the first place?
Well, I was in photocopiers and I had trained in London with Xerox for 5 years. I'd gone up through the ranks, and they actually asked me, would I like to go back to Ireland and set up a Xerox dealership over there? And I always felt, I mean, we'd all worked for my dad as we'd grown up, so we had a family business, so I think it was inbred already. Nice. I think it was is what I want to do. I went to the corporate world to get some grounding and to, because I think it's good to have, but I always knew I wanted to start my own company. So when I got that opportunity, I went, yeah, I can do this.
Not realising quite how deep everything you can go.
Yeah.
And the requirements.
Yeah, and I went on to kind of build that business organically, and then through acquisition, and then sold that. Swore I'd never go again, and I've gone again about 3 more times. I think that's being an entrepreneur. It's just it's inbred into you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Like almost you kind of get to, you think, okay, I want that goal, and then when I'm there, that's it. That's my achievements. But it isn't. You get to that point, and then it's like you just want to keep going, and it just always eats inside of you, doesn't it? You never can stop.
Absolutely. And I always say, when I sell this one, I'm off to the beach. Yeah. But funny enough, I was on holidays the last time. I was sitting on this beach in the Caribbean, and I was watching this guy renting out jet skis, right? Because I'm thinking, what if I did go to the beach? Yeah. And I worked out, I reckon he was making 29 grand a week, and I was like, that's my next that's my next opportunity.
So you've got your retirement plan all sorted on the beach. Well, so Gillian, so that Xerox company, now obviously I know, like with the Brad Sugars action coach, I was coached by one of his guys, and he always goes on about, he always just say to me, what's your selling date? And I was like, well, I don't want to sell. And he goes, but if you get to the selling date, then at least you've then got a target to make the business run without you successfully. So therefore it can be a profitable enterprise that runs without you. So then you can then buy back your time if you want, or you can sell it. What are the key factors that you think, obviously because you've been there, you've sold it for, was it sort of like a nine-figure business, which is absolutely, I mean, for you to do that and raise a family on your own, that is amazing, by the way. That is really amazing. I didn't actually know that until I'd done some research, and I was like, what? I've known you since I think it was 2016 or 17. I never knew that. That was amazing. So what kind of characteristics do you think you need to get to that, to build that and stick with it? And also, what kind of things do you think you need to look out for or have in a business that makes it attracting to buyers that would come in and buy it?
I think to build it, we built it to about a 7 million turnover, actually. I think you've got to be a little bit of an outside the box thinker. You have to be ahead of your competitors. You have to always be thinking about the next thing. So just to give you an idea, when I worked for Xerox in the UK, it was all analog machines. They weren't connected, they weren't printers, and we were moving into a digital world. And when I moved back to Ireland, what I didn't realise was, even though the people in Ireland got trained the same as the people in the UK, they were kind of about 3 years behind. So I
Right.
jumped on that bandwagon and seen that actually if I put the right teams in place, the right technical team, the right, and packaged solutions to teach companies how they can work better with their documentation,
Yeah.
rather than them having issues and going, oh God, I have to scan in this document is really important because I've just sold a 20 million share,
Yeah.
and the machine's not working, or we don't have one of the, to actually go to our clients and change the way they do business. So it's that outside the box thinking rather than following the sheep. You actually are the one that changed the way things are done. And I've always done that, a bit like Lender Made Simple when I set that up, and I called it Lender Made Simple,
Yeah.
because I had gone into the finance world and I realized that it was very complicated for businesses to get finance. And, if you're a creative, let's say, most creatives are scared of the word finance and money, and they really are. And they go into a bank and they feel overwhelmed and they probably get turned down.
That's very true.
Yeah, and I felt with my experience in business, as opposed to my lack of experience in finance, because I didn't come with that, I've learned it, I've self-taught myself. My experience in business was more important, because I could, and that's why I set up Lender Made Simple, was to change the way finance was done and to make it simple for those people that don't, so my clients come to me, I say, let me take that, let me get the solution for you, let me take the problems off you. So doing things differently.
Yeah.
And always thinking ahead. And, we sat and had a coffee this morning and we talked about, we never just sit on our laurels. We've always, if you're not moving forward, you're actually moving. If you're stagnant, you're moving backwards.
That's so true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in
That's
business.
very true.
If you're not constantly analysing your business, we talked about technology. Technology is amazing. Embrace it. Don't be scared of it.
Yeah. That's
Don't
it.
be. I ran an event recently about AI, because I'm scared of AI.
Yeah.
But actually, if you embrace it, and use it to the best of your ability, you will be ahead of
Yeah.
of your competitors.
Sort of like using it as a tool to leverage,
Yeah,
isn't it? Really.
yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing.
And use it more positively. What was the rest of the question around selling your business
So
then?
I think, just quickly touching on that, I think with that though, I think that's a mindset thing though. When you say about using it as a tool and you are scared of it, but it's almost like that doesn't put you back in your shell. You're saying, well, I'm scared of it, but do you know what? I'm going to come out fighting, as it were. I'm going to
Yeah.
find a way around this. I'm
Yeah.
going to be capable of, enable to myself to understand it and use it and move forward.
And embrace it.
Embrace it
and
to let me get the goals that I want to
yeah,
achieve.
yeah,
So,
and don't see it as like people, and certainly creators and that, see it as almost a competitor. Oh God, they're
yeah,
going to take over my job. No, they're not.
yeah.
And I remember doing a training course, I'm going to show my age now, on while I worked in Xerox for the World Wide Web, right?
Oh my God.
And funny enough, I told my son this story a while ago, and he went, "Is that what W stands for?"
Yeah,
And I
that's
said,
it.
"It does, yeah." And I came out of this training course, and I thought, wow, all I could think of was this was like this spaceship up there that had all the answers,
Yeah,
right? And I was scared of it, and I kind of felt with AI the same thing. And I held an event recently where different speakers from different industries, one creates kind of platforms and SaaS platforms, one answers telephones for big companies and has created a chatbot using AI, because people don't use the phones anymore, so her business was going to go downwards. So she had to come up with something. And after listening to all these different industries talk about AI, and actually talk about their businesses. The most important thing that came out to me, I wasn't scared of AI afterwards, because the most important thing that came out of that was it was all down to customer service and people.
that's right.
It's
Yeah,
all about people.
that connection.
Yeah.
Relationships. Yeah, exactly.
Relationships, yeah,
That's right.
and your team, and building that team like I did. With seeing that actually, if I had a really good, I could go out and sell photocopiers all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go into these big banks in the International Financial Services Centre in Dublin and say, I'll put in a system that will change how you do your business, that will authenticate every document in the cycle of your business. But if I didn't have the right technical team behind me,
Yeah.
I couldn't deliver that. I could talk about it all day long, but I couldn't deliver it. And it's, I think as a business owner, knowing what your skill is as well.
Yeah.
I'm a salesperson, is what I've been trained as. You know, if I didn't have the technical people like literally in that meeting with me, then I'm not going to deliver it. And delivery is the most important part of it.
Yeah, it's sort of like delivering on what you've said you were going
Yeah.
to be doing. That's
Yeah, you can talk
it's
all
funny,
day.
actually. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Do you know what? Actually, it's really funny you touch on that, because I had someone here the other day, and they're doing really well, really, really successful business, and he's grown it from almost nothing, and it's just exploded. And I asked him, I said, "What do you think the key elements are as to why that's happened?" And he said, "It's because we just deliver." After some discussion, in the end, he's like, "Do you know what? Actually, it's just because we deliver what we said we're going to deliver." And when
Yeah.
he's got his customer feedback, they're like, "Do you know what? When we go to this said I know he's going to deliver exactly what said he's going to deliver." That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's but it's such a rare thing nowadays. Something so simple is so rare.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is the difference between those that achieve in a sort of a good name, success, if you like,
Yeah.
and those that don't. You
Yeah.
know, and I think that's the difference.
And as I said, it kind of, I think for me personally is probably a skill that I have is thinking outside that box.
Yeah.
You know, I was with a client of mine that I recently did quite a big fund so that he could buy his mum and dad out of the business, and he's been trying to do it for years but couldn't fund it. And I went in and I was like, okay, tell me about your business, what you're trying to achieve, where did you go before, how did you, you know, and you know, he's been turned down by every financial institution. And I scratched my head and I said, okay. And I said, look, there could be a few different ways. I never committed. And I came up with a couple of different solutions. And he had a company event that invited me to a few weeks ago. And he stood up in front of all, and these were all his customers. And he said, Gillian, come in. And it was like Tinkerbell. And I went, oh, I'll have a bit of that. And he said, we're a magic wand. And he said, she changed my life. Because this is something I've wanted to do. I've worked for my father for 25 years. And this is something we've been trying to do for years, and I couldn't do it. And boom, it was done, you know. So it's just thinking outside the box that there must be somebody, there has to be a better solution. And it's about then going and, you know, and I think because I'm you know, I don't like saying no.
Yeah.
I don't like people telling me no. It's like, wrong answer.
That's it. Let me go again.
Let's deliver the solution. And we did. That's what we did.
But I think that's the entrepreneurial sort of like never give up mindset that you've got, that because it's almost like you say you're thinking outside the box. It's almost something similar to when you broke away from your family in a sense. Your wanted to go corporate in a sense. You think there's more to it.
Yeah.
So it's almost always challenging the next step, isn't it? So that can't be everything. You know, let me think outside the box.
Yeah.
But with that mindset, do you think you're kind of born with that, or do you think that could be developed?
I think you're born with it.
Yeah.
I think absolutely. I think we're all born with different skills, and in fact, my brother, that I'm one of 7 kids, very competitive, 7 children, believe me.
Rounding time.
I'm middle child, and my brother above me was super intelligent. He was so intelligent that at 5 years of age, the school brought Mensa in, and he became a member of Mensa at 5, and years and years later, he's become a civil engineer, and he wanted to go out on his own. And he called me, and for years he used to, because I didn't have the brains, I certainly didn't. So I chose to go the opposite way. I didn't go to university. I became the rebel.
Yeah.
You know, my mother said, you're the black sheep. I said, okay, I'll prove it.
I'll take that.
And I did, and I went out and I proved it. And me and him always didn't get on the best as kids, you know, because he was slagging me, I was slagging him. And he called me one day and he said, I'm thinking about going out on my own. And he said, I just wish I had just a smaller percentage of my brain and just a bit of whatever it is that you have. Yeah. He said, and I don't know what it is, you're streetwise, or, you know. So I think it is. I think it is a skill that you're born with. Yeah. Because as you know, running a business, you have to be so tenacious. You cannot give up.
Yeah.
You
definitely.
cannot. You know, there are days, and we talked about this morning, that we're very similar. We're either 200% and we're out of that bed, 5 a.m, bing, or we're 20%, we're lying in that bed going, I don't want to get up today. Yeah. And we still have those days, and we still, you know, but if 99% of the time you're at that 200%, then you're successful. Yeah. And I think that's when people kind of give up. They don't, and they don't become successful in business. You do have to have that thing about
that steal about you, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a real steal. So the other part of the question was, So let's say, for instance, if you're wanting to get to that point of selling the business. Now, whether you want to sell it or, like I said, if you want to just say, do you know what, I want to be able to have a day off in the week or 2 days off in the week, whatever it is, what kind of things do you think you need to have in place that looks attractive to a buyer or helps the business run successfully without you?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to answer two sides to that because
Okay. Yeah.
I've done one side where I think I've probably not done it so well, and now I do it very different. I actually have created a team to help people do that. So when I built that photocopier business, we built it to about 3 million organically. We then bought another business of 3 million, so we went to 6 million overnight.
Okay. Oh, so acquisition.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it was acquisition. We built it to about 7 million in the end, but it was at the time, and I made a lot of mistakes about it, hence why I run a lot of events about acquisitions. As you do on your first acquisition, you don't know what you're doing. You just think you're great. Oh, look at me, I've got here, I can do it. Yeah, I can take anything, I can take the world on.
Just sorry to interrupt, I must confess, I was a bit like that as well until I spoke to you. But so I know exactly what you mean. So sorry, yeah.
I also was 27 when I set that business up, and I was 37 when I sold it. And I think there's a lot to do with where you are in your mindset, your age. Because now I'm 52. This is my last business, and I will plan my exit in the next few years. I don't know if I want to exit. I think this one I will step out and keep it going.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one I was very young, but as I said, I had a lot on my shoulders. I was 37 years of age. The recession was kicking in Ireland, like the Celtic Tiger was falling. I had a very young child. I was rearing on my own. I was like, ugh. And in fact, I think I probably had a bit of a breakdown and went, you know what, I don't have any more in me to take this any further. And my brother was in a different space. He was my business partner, and he was 5 years older than me. Married, 2 kids. He was in a different space. He was like, "It's fine, we'll do this." I couldn't, and that was fine. We brought in actually consultants to say, "What's the best thing to do?" And we decided to sell. I fund a lot of acquisitions now, and I run a lot of events teaching people about acquisitions, because if I had built that business now, it would have been very different, and I probably wouldn't have sold, and I'd have done very, very different things. So at 37 years of age, you're too young to sell a business.
Do you think?
Yeah, because you're just going to go and go again.
Yeah.
So if you're on the other scale and the other, you're almost too young.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
You're too young to sell and go to the beach.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So once you've got a plan, and I didn't, so I stayed on for a little bit, and I didn't stay very long, and I moved to the UK, and I stupidly bought a pub because I was just bored, and the local pub said, "Oh, I'll do that," So you unless you've got a plan to do, then, and that's why I always say to people, if you're going to sell, and I've coached a lot of my clients. One of my clients came to me when he was turning over 1.5 million. I got him the funds. He bought lots of different. He had kitchen shops. I got him the fund to buy lots of different kitchen shops. He got to a stage, I think he was turning over 4.5 million, and all of a sudden a big German manufacturer went, "Oh yeah, we like what you've done. We'll buy it off you." So, but he was still quite young. But at the time, I coached him quite a lot to say, "Get yourself ready. That's fine, great." Bought himself a Ferrari, he made it, but have a plan, because if not, it's not a good place that you're in. Yeah. So the second part of the question is getting ready for that, that next phase, or for getting ready for selling it, if that's what you're going to do, or stepping out. And as I said, with the Finance Hub, I put a team together where we've got kind of the accountant, the lawyer, the fractional CFO, the operational fractional operations officer, and the finance, and that's where we run events, teaching people all. Not teaching, I suppose it is teaching. We don't charge for it. We put it on. It's a couple of hours where we can say, right, if you are getting ready, take advice. That was probably my problem I didn't do. Take advice from maybe a business coach, or there's loads of different advisors out there, and that's why I put that team together where they can come in, help you tidy the business up, because if you get that business, as you know, you've got really good systems and processes and a great team, and it's going to be easier to sell, and you're going to sell it for more if that's what your end game is. But I think also taking on a coach to help you mentally decide what is right.
Yeah.
Because the night, so let's say you decide, I'm going to build this, I'm going to sell it, Gillian, I'm going to sell it when I'm 50, or I'm going to sell it when I'm 50. The emotional side of that day you sell that business, and I always say the night I sold that business, and it's always like 12:30 at night, you've been in the office, and this is after probably 8 months of working on it, you're in that lawyer's office, and that's you would sign anything at that stage. You are so exhausted. And I always say that night felt like I moved house that day, I got divorced, and I sold all my babies as well in the same day.
All in one, yeah.
That is what it's like. It is, you've built this. This is your everything.
Yeah.
These are your babies. This is, you've emotionally done this, and you've done a great job of it, and you've done it differently. And then you sign it all over and you walk away. Emotionally, it takes a lot to get over it. So I think taking some sort of coaching personally, which I've never done because I didn't at that stage. I know better now, and if I was going to do it again, is to make sure you bring in advisors, because you're good at what you do. You know what you do, and you do it brilliantly, but you don't know all those other elements.
That's right. Well, it's like that thing, you don't know what you don't know until you find out what you don't know.
Yeah.
You think you know it all until someone just opens a can of worms and if you thought about this, and no, I haven't.
Yeah.
So,
I ran an event about acquisitions and a few months ago, and the accountant started talking about, are you going to build through acquisition? Are you going to buy other businesses? And really, I thought she was teaching people baby steps. I'm sitting there thinking, God, is this maybe a little bit, too harsh? Because I've done it a few times, and just down to simple, what are you buying or what are you selling? Is it a limited company? Is it shares? Is it a client base? Is it, she's an accountant that grew through acquisition. She buys the base. Right. She's got the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, she,
That's
so what is it?
Looking at it. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
What is it you're buying or selling? Okay, then we've worked that out. How is that value? And I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is really teaching people to suck eggs. But afterwards, everyone went, that was amazing. Because if you don't know, you don't know. If you've never done it,
exactly,
you don't know. Yeah, I'm going to sell my business because I think it's worth, and it's never worth.
You see that big figure?
Yeah,
that's it.
Because people come to me to fund. That's all I'm funding at the moment is acquisitions, and it's a family business, and mum and dad are in there. The kids don't want to take it over. It's a family business, turnover 5 million, and the family think it's worth 5 million, let's say, and it's worth 2.5, and that's where it's going to start, and and I'll go, that's fine. Come back to me when you've done all of that, and I'll get you the funding, because I know there's going to be haggling. I know there's going to be a certain amount of money up front. I know, So the advice I would say is go and bring in experts that can help you to make those right decisions.
And have a plan, because sometimes, like you say, you see the big number, and because you've invested the blood, sweat and tears into that business, someone that's come along to buy that business only sees what's on the balance sheet. And then anything else that you can try to dress it up, but they don't understand the investment that you've made, all the energy, etc., and all the countless of night, like no sleep every night and that sort of thing. So all of a sudden your value may be a lot different to what their value is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing.
And
so
what do you do with it?
Yeah.
In lockdown, I had a client come to me for some CBILS loans, and he got offered a ridiculous, now I mean eye-watering figure. And he was only quite young. I think he was in his late 30s. And I looked at the figure and I said to him, I take it, mate. I take it, because you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? You could sit on a beach. You could, And he didn't. He actually went down like an employee ownership route. And now, because he had built it that far, he didn't want it. But if I'd have been offered that money, I'd have taken it. So it is down to what is it you're being offered? Because that is the other side of it. You know, you might have a business that somebody wants to get their hands on, and it's an eye-watering amount of money that actually you could go on to do lots of other things with. So
That's it. I think that's
that's
probably
right.
where it comes in with that plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, what do you really want beyond the business? And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. You know,
Yeah.
don't just look at that sell figure at that point. You look beyond that,
Yeah.
because one of the questions was is to see how you felt when you sold the business, and obviously you said it's like a bit of a lost moment. You know, like would you agree? Is that
Oh,
sort of,
absolutely.
yeah?
It was pretty horrendous. It really, and I think my brother took longer to get over it than I ever
Oh
did.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, really, really did. And what happens, all the promises as well, and the business will stay, and it never stays the same. It's not, and you've got to be prepared for that it's not going to be the same. So either sell it and go,
Yeah.
and I was speaking to a guy this morning who has just sold part of his business, and he called me, and I thought, oh, sorry, he just sold his business, and I thought, I know what's going to happen. He went, I'm not going to stay in this business. And I said, yeah, I thought as much, So it is. And I remember, we weirdly, we didn't stay on as an earn out. We had to hand over, or literally, we had to resign on that day, and then we were actually given a job the next day. So I was made the sales director, So it was quite unusual with that one, which actually was good because it meant we could leave our job at any time.
Yeah.
Where sometimes if you've an earn out, you've got to stay longer,
That's it.
and you're watching and I remember
12, 18 months and just
yeah,
seeing it.
yeah.
Change.
And I remember my first ever employee was a lady. I mean, she was in her 60s when I sold the business, so she was in her kind of 50s. And she came to us because she said, look, I had 4 kids. They're all now gone and moved on and have, grandkids now and everything. And I want to get back in the workplace. But I'm not really up with technology, but I'm a good learner. And we went, oh, okay, come on, could you do? And she was and a real lady, and she used to collect all the money. And she was such a lady. She did it in such a lovely way. She was, yeah. And she stayed on. And I was in the office one day, and the new finance team were in there. And I was in sales. I was sales director now, but I was listening in the background. And there was, at this stage she's in her 60s, and there was this young 20-year-old, like literally tearing strips off her, and I just couldn't. I just went straight over and told her to have respect. That this woman's been doing this job for 10 years, and I was brought up to respect your elders,
Yeah.
and even though I was her boss, I still had respect for her,
Yeah.
and here was this young whippersnapper like tearing strips off her, and I couldn't, and that's the bit that's difficult.
Yeah, that culture, isn't it? Just gets lost along the way, I
Yeah,
think.
but also, these were all your staff. You treated them with respect, and people come in and not treated them the same, and that is very, very difficult. So,
So you mentioned on a Sybil's loan, do you think finance or that side of financing for corporate funding, etc., has changed since?
massively,
Do you reckon?
yeah,
Because I know we spoke about the private banking. So obviously we always spoke about, okay, private banking a bit more interested in investing in corporate, the vision,
yeah,
like entrepreneurs, so to speak,
yeah,
because they can understand it a bit more than the high street banks. But you mentioned that they're perhaps changing as
changing as well.
well.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that part of that whole change since
absolutely. Yeah, I
COVID?
think I fell into finance 10 years ago, so I don't come from this background, which is really unusual. People go, really? How did you do that?
Yeah. It's a
What
big
about your
jump.
qualifications? And as I said, I think now I realise my qualifications in running businesses far outweighs my lack of knowledge of a financial institution. But I was asked by a firm of accountants to come into finance. They had opened a brokerage, and I took the job, and I said I didn't last very long. I was like, because I looked at how the world of the finance brokerage has gone. So a lot of the finance is now done through brokers. There's over 3,000 brokers in the UK.
Yeah.
And most brokers will come from a financial institution. So maybe a bank, or maybe an invoice finance type company, or maybe a property lender, or, and they tend to stay in their lane. So if they started in invoice finance, they go out as a broker, and that's what they will do. If they worked in a bank, in corporate banking, doing loans, they will come out and they will probably stay in that lane and do that because that's what they've been trained to do.
Yeah.
Because I didn't come from that world, and after a few months, I was like, hold on. And when I got asked to take the job, I said, I don't just need a job. I'm not, I was a bit like, yeah, I better get a job because I need to go do something. But I wanted a new career, and I wanted something to give me that 200% in the
Yeah.
morning. Yeah. And when I got offered the job, I said, look, I'm not just looking for a job. I'm going to research this industry. And if I like it and I love it, I'll take the job. And when I looked, I thought, this is changing. And this is a changing industry, and I like change. And I think within 10 years, some of the high street banks will not be there. Now we're 9 years in.
Yeah.
Actually, it is the 10th year since I went into finance, and most little village in the UK now doesn't even have a bank. So I think I did foresee that in the right way. The world of alternative funding, which opened up in 2008 when the banks crashed, and the banks stopped lending as much. So all these alternative funders come in, and the alternative funding market. This is what I looked at, which is where I specialised in. Now I've changed, but at the time that's all I did. I looked at it and I thought this is really quite interesting because the banks haven't changed the type of lending they do. Okay, they've always done business loans, overdraft, if you're lucky enough to get one. Mortgages, they like property, so they like an asset, yeah. Some of them do invoice finance, but that's getting less. That has not changed. It's never changed. They've never reinvested or reinvented the wheel. The alternative funding market has. So what they've done is they've looked at how have we changed as business owners? How do we do business differently? And let's create a financial product to help that type of client out. Yeah. But the problem is, most of, like you, when you came to me many years ago, you don't know this world. You don't know all the different types of products that's available out there. So that's why the brokerage has become such a big arm, because that's what we do for a living, is go and find that. But just to give you an idea of that, I had a client years and years ago who sold torches, right? And they got orders from Tesco, Aldi, Robert Dyes. Yeah, they got orders, £100,000 worth of torches. They had to go to China to buy that at maybe £40,000. The bank used to, there was a product called trade finance. They would pay that invoice for you. And then when that product hit your warehouse, the invoice was raised to Tesco and they gave you invoice finance. So they effectively owned the product from the start to the finish.
Yeah.
Nowadays, and actually one of my clients I'm dealing with at the moment, Tesco will say, we really like that. Yeah, get them in. And when you have them in, we'll probably buy them off you. They don't give you an order. So that traditional form of lending is not going to work.
Yeah.
So you've got to upfront £40,000. If you've got 10 of those type of orders, and so the alternative funding market has created products that you can upload that invoice, pay it, and spread it over 3, 6, 9, 12 months. There's lots of different funds now to help with that. So that's what the alternative funding market has done.
Yeah.
And I think what's probably happened is that has taken a lot of the funding. So now that the high street banks, I'm not going to mention, but the big four, that are going, whoa, hold on. Actually, these brokers are bringing, the clients to these alternative funders. And one of the high street banks, I very seldom did business with them, knocked on my door in December and said, we're setting up a brokerage arm and we'd like to come and take you to lunch. So I obviously booked the most expensive restaurant I could. I took my team.
Yeah.
But funny enough, we've done a couple of £1 million deals with them.
Yeah.
One of them was that client that has been trying for years to get the funding, and they actually did work with the client to understand, which had kind of disappeared off because people feel that they don't get that from their high street bank. Well, I went in, and I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but I was told no, and the computer said no.
Yeah, that's it.
So now having that broker there that says, hold on, maybe there is a facility. And I think then the bank's going, actually, these brokers are doing the business out there, so why don't we go back and work them? So yes, it has come kind of full circle. What you talked about a minute ago, private banks, more I call them structured banks.
Okay.
Yeah. So they kind of sit in between.
Right.
But again, they have their niche. They will only lend starting at £1 million generally. Yeah. Where the alternative funders will start at £5,000.
Yeah.
And they'll generally go up to probably about £1 million. Yeah. The structured lenders will start at £1 million, but the structured lenders will take probably 6 months to lend to you. They will go through your business with a fine-tooth comb. You will have to prove that you've a board in place, you have 3 years forecast done. They will go through that with a fine-tooth comb. You've got management information, where the alternative fund market will look at your historical data and say, how have you been growing? Are you profitable? Quite a lot of it's algorithm driven.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you might go online and go, you know what, I can apply for a loan, and then the computer says no. You go, oh, well, you come to a broker. We know most of the algorithms. We know where you fit, and some of them we can actually say, look, can you listen to this story? There was a little bit of an issue in the past. This is the reason behind it. Would you overlook that and look at the okay, where the structured lenders are only looking at very profitable businesses. And to be honest, most grown businesses aren't always profitable until they get to a certain stage. So it's very niche and very, so there are those different stages. And actually, where I only dealt in one part of it, now I've actually taken on a guy now who has over 40 years experience in corporate banking and in the structured lending. So he just takes all them from me.
Yeah.
Because I know that's not my bag. It's not what I do all day long.
Yeah, and I think it's handy to have that, isn't it? Like somebody that knows that industry.
Yeah.
And then they know what kind of levers to pull and what you have to do. So with the reporting, and obviously submitting these forms, is there anything that sort of like business owners can do? Because what I like to do is, and I know we've done it before, is I say, look, I would like to try and see if I can borrow X in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
Give me a shout, give me a heads up of what I should be looking towards.
Yeah.
Tweaking or improving or changing to eventually in 6 months' time have that better sort of like attraction to those lenders.
Absolutely. And we do, it is very consultative how we deal with our clients.
Yeah,
So we will always try educate our clients to make sure that I say, cleaning their act up. Yeah. So the type of things is obviously the business credit rating is one. Now, many years ago, you would have a relationship with your business bank manager, and they would know how your business credit rating is and how you're looking, but they may not know your personal stuff, and that might be really good in business and terrible in personal. Yeah. Now with the use of our phones, everything's connected, right? They can see everything. So you've got to be squeaky clean, or as best you possibly can.
In personal and business?
Yes.
The whole lot?
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
It's all, and it's getting, it's getting harder now as well because of COVID, and I'll tell you a bit more about that. So the first thing is we'll look at your business credit rating and say, right, how can we help you to improve that? So there are certain industries that sometimes there's, you can be as good as you, but you're still only ever going to get a B credit rating, like construction. Construction is one of the worst because it just has a bad reputation for going bust.
Yeah.
So a lot of funders are like, right, who have you an appetite for? Well, we'll tell you who we don't have an appetite for. Yeah. Construction. So unfortunately, that is it. So there may be things that you can't adjust. But for instance, having a positive balance sheet. So sometimes people say to me, "But I want to be as tax efficient, or I've been reinvesting back in my business." Okay, well, we get that. But if it's a matter of it's going to be like a 10 grand loss, I'd say to them, don't make it a 10 grand loss. Surely your accountant can find stuff in there that can be brought forward or backwards into different years to try and make it a profitable business. Because I'll always ask you, are you profitable? Yeah. And really, some of it, if you think of the lenders that are algorithm driven, it's almost irrelevant how profitable you are for those, right? So you could be £1,000 profit, or you could be 250,000. They don't care. You've ticked the box. You're profitable. So try to be profitable. Yeah. Obviously, things like missed payments, all right? Missed payments to any of your suppliers are a no-no. Like lenders will say, right, don't come near me for 3 months. You missed a payment. Because if you think of their logic, they're trying to work out, are you going to be able to pay me back? If I give you this money, because I don't know you, Brad, from Adam, okay? And you've just come to me for £500,000. Okay, so I'm going to look at your history. I'm going to look at your credit file, and I'm going to make a decision on that.
Yeah.
But I actually don't know you. So they're looking at all these elements, and then if you've defaulted on your mortgage or something like that, or your landlord, you haven't paid they're going to go, or stupid things like Vodafone or something like that, your utilities.
Yeah.
Then they're going to go, if he's defaulting on that, one, he's either not control.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, if you know your bills are coming up and you're even 10 grand short, just give me a call. I'll get you a quick 10 grand that you can pay back in 2 or 3 days when it comes in.
Yeah.
Do not have a default. So that's one. Things like CCJs. We had a client come to us this morning. We pulled a credit report. He had 3 CCJs on that credit report straight away.
Is that just instant?
No way.
Straight up. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Right.
A couple of years ago, they'd have gone, maybe, what are they for, right? But I looked, they're HMRC. That's an no. That's the crown. You have not
That's
paid
right. Yeah.
the crown. So that's an absolute no.
I'm sort of like, much like yourself, a bit sort of old school. So I always pay the tax man. You know, just keep them off your back.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
it. Everything
Me
else
too.
you sort out.
Scared of them. Yeah. So things like that. So I use a tool called Credit Safe, which a lot of companies use. And once I put your company details in there, anytime there's a change in your business, like you file new accounts or you change directors or anything like that, then I will get a report every morning of all changes. And you would not believe, at the moment, even worse than ever, the amount of CCJs people get from HMRC. And it could be a silly little one for £249, right? Yeah. And I will text my client that morning and go, did you know you got a CCJ at £249? Because I'm sure you wouldn't accept that, Brad, would you? And they're straight on the phone to me, what's that? And so I'll say, look, I can't tell you exactly, but I'll send you a screenshot and go and get it sorted, get it off your site, because you can, within a few weeks, I think it is, you can get that fixed and taken off.
Yeah.
Afterwards, like we have a client at the moment who got a CCJ for a parking ticket because it went to his old flat and he hadn't changed the name on his car, the address on his car. He's had it taken off, but my funders still won't fund on it until it's actually removed, because I'm not sure what the technical name of it is, so you pay it off and it's agreed, but then it still has to be removed completely.
It's like sort of ghosting in the background, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still
there.
And
you want it cleaned off. And this week we did a report for one of our clients where they had like a C rating 41. They're a really good business. They're turning over not far off 3 million. 350 grand profit. She's like, why have we got a low, no CCJs, going many, many years? And on that report, and I was able to give her the report, the red flag that came up was they had moved premises twice in 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So what I would do with her is, we're gathering our information at the moment, but as of 28th of this month, one of those will come off.
Yeah.
Because it was back in February. So I'll hold off going for that funding. I don't think there'll be some funders it won't be a problem with, but some funders it will. So I'll say, right, and that's what a good broker will do, is it's my job to make sure that we go for funding for you at the right time when you're in the best position.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the business side. Yeah. Sorry, there's one more thing on the business side that has become huge at the moment that wasn't a problem a few years ago. So we're seeing lots of liquidations at the moment. And there is a fair few of these liquidations are because there was loans taken out in lockdown with no personal guarantees.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of liquidations happening. Sometimes liquidations happen for the right reasons, or they need to, or but sometimes they also happen because there's debt there that there's no PGs on
behind it. Yeah.
And in the past, we'd go to the funders. We say, look, you had a liquidation over there. There was a reason for that. Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but this company's really good and it's been going. And it was never a problem. At the moment, none of my funders will lend if there's a liquidation there. So I work with a lot of accountants, and I'm saying to the accountants, please only let your clients liquidate for the good reasons.
Yeah.
Because if they do need funding, it's an absolute no-no, and I've never seen that before.
Is that like I suppose that's similar to CCJ, isn't it? It's very impactful in that
Yeah.
sense. You know, you
Yeah.
straight away know.
Yeah. Well, I had a client come to me this week who had liquidated a business with 90 grand's worth of debt, half of that to HMRC and half of it to a bank for a C-bills loan.
Right.
And he's opened up another business, which is more or less the same, and he came to me for funding. And I said, do you seriously think the funder's going to go, oh, that's okay, you didn't pay the other bank
Yeah.
and the Crown, so tell you what, yeah, don't worry, yeah, we'll give you more money. No. So it's just, and I've been trying to get under the skin of what the funder's thinking of it. And, give us a time frame. What if that goes 12 months? Maybe, so they're not giving me any. That will change, and these funders change on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The appetite changes. They get one bad debt in care homes, bang, they stop dealing with care homes tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they change all the time.
So that was going to be one of my questions is, if you do have something like a missed payment, I guess liquidation and CCJ is going to be on a lot longer, but is there a period of time for a missed payment that perhaps it might then eventually kind of become a shadow
generally
of
about 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
it
it
used
the
to be
same
about
for CCJ?
3, it's 6. No.
No, that's a
No.
lot heavier.
No.
Right, okay.
It's actually worse sometimes. If I go and say, look, they had a CCJ, there's a reason for it, it's now cleared out, they'll go, yeah, okay. If it's a missed payment, they go, no, don't come back for 6 months.
Wow.
So
okay, right. So it's just that 6
it's
month
almost
window.
worse. It's almost worse in the short term.
Yeah.
To have missed payments because you can't clear that. It's
Yeah.
there. It's evident.
That's it.
Or you can clear a CCJ.
It kind of drops off and that's the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can have it removed if you pay it off, and you can have it totally removed.
So if you were thinking about borrowing and your plan is to acquire a company, or you wanted some funding for something else, and you do have a missed payment after you've got your credit rating, it's almost like, do you know what, actually let me get all my ducks in a row,
Yeah,
and I've got to wait 4 more months or something for this to drop off,
Yeah.
and then have that factored into your planning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've just talked about the business side, then there's the personal side.
Right.
So I always say, right, let's clean this personal side up. There's still a very, very high percentage of our lenders that will only lend to a homeowner.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
okay.
I quite often have, it's a bit of a tick box exercise.
It's the asset, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not that I have never, tip wood, in nearly 10 years, I've never had a client have their home removed.
Right.
Okay, because I always make sure if they're signing a personal guarantee, they know what it's about.
Yeah.
Now, people say to me, I want to get a loan, but I don't want to sign a PG. And I say, well, in this day and age, you're not going to get one. Okay, because why would I lend my money to you and you not guarantee you're going to pay it back? And I don't know you from Adam, yeah? So you will have to sign a personal guarantee. So if you think of it from the funder's term, if you don't own a house, you run a business, but you don't have any assets, well, you could liquidate that and go off into the sunset. Yeah, you often live somewhere else. How are they ever going to pull that money back? So there's an element that if you have an asset, it gives the strength of that PG, that personal guarantee. Yeah. So probably I'd say 70% of lenders now will only lend to homeowners. Or we have some that will lend up to 50 grand to a non-homeowner.
Right.
So I often have quite big businesses that they sell their house because they want to move to a different area, or all the kids have grown out and they have a big £3 million house and they're selling, they move into rented just because they want to play about and see what they want to buy, and all of a sudden I can't get them funding because they're a non-homeowner. They don't tick that box, you know, and that's one element. And then there's the personal credit rating. So obviously no defaults on that either. Certainly mortgages, do not default on your mortgage.
Is that the same 6 month period? If you had, then perhaps wait, or does that last a little bit longer?
Yeah. No, I'd say 6 months. Yeah,
6
about
months.
6
Okay,
months. Yeah.
Right.
So defaults, CCJs, so personal CCJs as well.
Yeah. Make sure they're cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, I'm no specialist in CCJs, but I think they do sit there on your record for about 5 or 6 months or years. But once they're satisfied and sorted, generally the funders are okay with that.
Okay.
And then keeping an eye on your personal credit rating. So I use 2, and I tell all my clients to download Experian Credit Score app, which is free.
Okay.
And try keep your score above the 900. So the highest is 999.
Right.
The other one is Credit Karma. I think the highest on that is 750. So I say try keep it up above the 600. Yeah. So because those
Credit Karma.
Yeah.
Is that like CALMER? Or...
It's Karma, isn't it?
Oh,
Karma,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I see.
credit and then Karma, Karma.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that one, but
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. So that one you can't get really high on. It really annoys me, and some of my friends we laugh about it because my experience is 999 at the moment. But my Credit Karma is 630 or something out of 750. I'm like, how is that?
I bet that's like a thorn in your
yeah,
side.
yeah, and I don't know what it is. I don't know behind it. But for instance, my 999 will change, and there's one of the reasons why. So if you've got credit cards, and it's good to have credit cards,
Yeah.
and it's good to repay them and don't default, obviously, because that does help with your credit rating. But what they say is try to keep your utilization of the fund. So let's say you've 10 credit cards with £1,000 each on them.
Yeah.
Your utilization personally is 3 grand. Sorry, is 10 grand.
Yeah.
So try keep it below 30%. So try keep that below 3 grand.
I think that probably shows discipline, doesn't it? And in a sense,
It-
rather than you going out and making
Yeah, it's also
decisions,
that you're not
maxing them
desperate.
out.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, you're
selling,
not
yeah,
so
that
desperate.
sort of thing,
You're
yeah.
not maxing yourself
That's
out.
right. Yeah. You suddenly
It's
got
all
some
right. I've
free
got about
money.
10 grand there, but I don't use it all the time.
That's right. Yeah.
So you will see a spike if you had 10 grand, and all of a sudden you buy something big and you've spent 4 or 5 grand, your credit rate in the next month will drop down.
Right.
So it's utilization of the credit. So actually, sometimes I say, I'll go in. I use Amex as one of my cards. Could you up my limit? Because upping your limit is good if you're still only going to spend a certain amount.
Yeah.
Because it means your utilization
That's
is
one way
lower.
of doing it. Yeah, exactly. That's
So
it.
these are the type of things we educate
Little
our
tricks.
clients and say, right, clean your act up, or and also a lot of my clients have peaks and troughs in their year, so I know they'll come to me because they sell Christmas presents, and they have to order their stock in August, let's say. So I'll make sure that their credit rating is looking good at that time, or I might give them a reminder to, what I think, how did your next year go? Why don't you lodge your accounts a little bit earlier?
Yeah.
And that's another factor. Some people, and I never understand why they do it, whether it's their accountant giving them the advice on it, they leave lodging their accounts to kind of the last day of when it should be lodged. So you've got 10 months after your year end to lodge your accounts. Why? If you had a good year and it's looking good, you don't have to pay your corporation tax until the
That's
10th
right.
month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't know why people do that, because in my eyes, I always feel the underwriters, so they're the people who are looking at this loan for you and going, what's this person doing, If you're 3 months into your new year and last year was really good and very profitable, get them lodged, because the underwriter's going to think this person's pretty confident, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. It's funny because I think exactly the same, because it's almost like, but also you want to know the figure, so you want to know what you've got to pay so you can plan for that. So but years ago, I used to be one of them people last minute.
Yeah.
But now I'm like literally, I'm on my accountant's towel, like straight away. Right, here you go. There's a backup file.
Yeah.
What are we doing? 6 weeks. Let's
but,
get it done.
But also, that helps you to plan your next year.
Yes, definitely.
Analysing what you did well
That's
and what
exactly
you didn't do
it.
well last year is going to form. So if you left that for 10 months, well,
Yeah, you
how's
want
your-
that feedback straight away.
absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lending Made Simple and Finance Hub, is there any connection to them?
Yeah. So Lending Made Simple is the older one. That's gone 9 years now. And that specifically does debt fund, business lending, cash flow facilities. That is all it does, because a lot of brokerages do property.
Yeah.
I analysed my business many years ago and thought, right, my conversion rate on business loans is about 70%, which is pretty high in my world. But it's like 1% on property, so I'm not very good at that. Yeah. So let's do I'm a real believer, you do what you're really good at. Yeah. So that's all Lending Made Simple does. The reason I launched the finance, or come up with the concept about 4 years ago, was people said, God, you really made that simple. Do you do property? Do you do mortgages? What about pensions? What about investments? What about, of currency? So I launched the Finance Hub, which was bringing a group of experts in all those different fields.
Yeah.
So different experts. We talked earlier about the fractional CFO. The lawyer, because when you get to a certain stage, you need to make sure all your shareholder agreements are in place. If you're buying business, you need a good lawyer. So there's a lawyer in that team, and we've foreign currency, because a lot of my clients buy and sell worldwide. I need to make sure my clients are getting the best and they're hedging that currency. So I brought together, and believe me, I kissed a few frogs along the way, because, if they don't deliver solutions, they're just not part of that team.
Right.
I need people that are on the same hymn sheet as I am.
Yeah.
And are working in the exact same way that I work, and deliver solutions for. If they're not good at what they do and deliver solutions, then I won't have them.
So that's effectively what the Finance Hub is, and is it sort of like a group of people that are experts in their field?
Yeah.
That's what, all things finances?
Mainly finance. As I said, we have a lawyer. We have
Right.
so it does kind of deviate a little
Every
bit.
connection.
But it's where, it was only because that was needed as part of that. Oh, actually, the CFO we have, he specialises in getting businesses ready for their sale, or helping get ready, clean up your business because you're going to buy another business. And I thought, what, we're doing a lot of this, so that's going to, so I'll add people in, like I've got great inheritance tax guys. So we brought in Wills. Wills is not finance, but actually it attaches to your inheritance tax, because somebody's done some super duper planning for you because you're about to sell your business and you've got kids and you want to be as, and certainly in this day and age it's getting worse, and you need to make sure you have a strategy in place. Well, you also need a really good will written off the back of that to make sure that when you're gone, so it does, there are other people as part of that team. But just to give you an idea, in property, there's lots of different types of property specialists. They can't all be great at everything. So I've got one who's excellent at doing residential mortgages for business owners, because business owners need to have a good broker to get them funding, because we put costs through our business, so we need someone in our corner to fight for us. I have somebody who specialises in buy-to-let portfolios. So if you're somebody that wants to grow that, she's brilliant at that. She can guide you. She understands how it works. HMOs, things like that. I then have another broker, and he specialises in bridging and development. So you want to buy land and build from the ground up. Dave's great at that. He's in there, from day one, and that's a very long-term relationship, and he understands that. So that's what the Finance Hub is about, is finding the right person for you to achieve what you're looking to financially.
And I know I've been to a couple of those events as well in Tunbridge, but obviously you're not in Tunbridge, you're in London now. So
we are.
moved to the big lights of London, which is brilliant. So it's exactly that, like you say, you get all these people that are experts in their fields, and you think, oh, how's that going to connect with that? But somehow you find that connection, and you think, actually, again, it goes back to what you don't know until you find out what you don't know. It's like, I didn't realise I needed to know that guy, but now I do, I see it. And I think it's almost part of I was speaking the other day about like the life-work balance and such. It's almost like, don't look at it like that, just look at it like life. And it's like that just enjoy the passage of time, what it is, and try and fill it with as many positive experiences as you can. But it's exactly the same with business, in a sense that as you're going along and you grow to different levels, etc., you then realise that, okay, I need to bring this advisor in, I need to bring that advisor in. You don't know it until you get to that stage, I think. So that's where the Finance Hub is so good.
And also, just to give you an example, like I would have people coming in saying, look, I've all my money tied up in my pension, and that's and the laws are changing at the moment, and they're trying to bring in that my pension, they're going to be taxed when I die. What's going to happen? I'm not an advisor at any stretch of the imagination on that side, but there are experts that will help you with that. But then he said, but my mate's got a property portfolio, and I'm kind of thinking, do I take money out? Do I do that? Or then I get the opposite, somebody coming in going, I've loads of property, but I've nothing put away in the pension fund. So the Finance Hub, we've got all these experts say, well, I tell you what, why don't we arrange a meeting with that person? If you want, they can have them all in the room at the same time. They will give you their independent advice, and it's not, there's no selling. We do not sell. They will give, and there's no kind of pushy people in there, because that is the key to it. My motto is let's talk. They'll say the pensions and investment advisors say, look, we believe you could do this. The more it would say, we believe you could do that, you go off and you make your decision on what is right for you.
So I just had two questions. One is Where would people find you? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, always Gillian Palmer, or the financehub.money is the website. When we start to put our events on there, them for the spring, or sorry, for the autumn, get booked into the events because they're free and they're
Brilliant.
educational, or book a call with us. Yeah, but LinkedIn is always the best, and we put
It
all
seems
of
to be
our
finding
events
that
in
is the
there.
main
Yeah,
thing for you people nowadays.
yeah.
And one last question, Gillian. Red. Why red?
I was born loving red.
Yeah.
And when I was about 6, I'm Catholic and made my first Holy Communion, and I wanted a red dress. And you weren't allowed a red dress. You could only have a white dress, right?
Ah.
But everything was red.
Yes.
Or when I was younger, I couldn't pronounce my R's, and I used to say wet. I
Oh.
want wet. And I lived in Dublin, and I used to say, my dad would say, what shoes? Wet shoes. I need wet shoes. And in those days, you didn't. You had brown or black, and that was it. And my poor father used to walk Dublin trying to find me wet shoes, which I'm wearing today.
Yeah,
I got my wet shoes on. I wanted a wet community. And it's always been my colour that lights me up. Actually, when I don't wear full red, people go, somebody commented yesterday, I wore a yellow dress, but I'll always have a bit of red. There's always, it's just, it's just my colour
Brilliant.
makes me feel good, and
Yeah.
people recognise me for it, and it's vibrant. And the first time I went to do my branding for the Lending Made Simple, my branding guy said, you can't have red. And I said, sorry?
Yeah.
He said, you can't, because red is fiery. And I went, yeah. He said, but you're going into finance, and everything finance is blue and green. And I said, but you didn't hear me.
Yeah.
I want red. Yes, I am different. I am a bit fiery. And
Gotta stand out.
you've got to stand out.
Brilliant.
And it's just always been my colour.
Well, Gillian, thank you very much.
Oh,
It's been an absolute pleasure, as always talking to you. So thanks very much.
And thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
No, brilliant. Thanks, Ed.
Right.
Cheers. Oh.